Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I am thrilled to introduce you to Keith Hubbard. He is the founder of True Principles. Thanks so much for being on the show this morning, Keith.
I'm so stoked to be here. So
good. Well, I'm happy to have you. And you are, like I said, the founder of True Principles. Yeah. Give us an idea briefly what you do with that.
Well, True Principles is really just my company that assists me in just a platform, so to speak, for getting out there and helping to shift and change families. A long time ago, I just realized that there was a lot of problems in our culture, the culture of our families, and so I've designed a curriculum to help teach families and couples and kids how to interact better at home and to overcome the drama that typically plagues our families and that we get all stuck up in, and so yeah.
Great, and you were gracious enough to come on and kind of give our audience some tips and ideas when it comes to communication. So what are the main challenges you see? And before we get into that, with Valentine's Day, I'm bringing on some people for Valentine's Day. I love it. I think it's awesome to obviously relate these things, and sometimes the best gift you can give is really good communication, I think. And so kind of explain the challenges that you see a lot in your work with people, with communication.
Well, I think the biggest battle people get into is this battle of being right and wrong, and really, you know, this communication tip won't be the typical communication tip. A lot of people, I think, give you know, this structure, like let's put this all in a structure and establish these rules. And the problem with techniques like that is that they're not always based on principles, and all the coaching that I do is very much principally focused. And the reason why is that principles allow us to go into a variety of situations and be able to apply that principle, and it's applicable to everything. And so oftentimes these techniques don't work because they're not founded on that, and that's why these rules that we set up oftentimes for communication doesn't work.
So give an example of that to help people understand better what exactly you're saying.
So a technique, right, like people oftentimes try to establish these rules of like, okay, if we're going to argue, we can never leave an argument for longer than 5 minutes, and we have to hash it out, right? And that doesn't work because sometimes we're so dynamic and different that oftentimes that doesn't work, and so setting up those kinds of rules just don't work. And so what I suggest for people to do instead is to understand the principles behind that. And one of the core principles of communication, excuse me, and why that breaks down is that when our communication breaks down, oftentimes it's because we lack trust in the relationship.
So it seems like that's kind of a fundamental thing when it comes to your ability to relate to people, to talk about issues, to feel that vulnerability.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
explain that more.
So, well, we're all motivated by fears and insecurities, and this is really at the core of a lot of the coaching that I did. And one of the gentlemen earlier today was, he was talking about how you know, ooh, man, us men we don't want to talk about feelings and stuff like that.
Are you talking about Dane, my co-host?
Yeah, Dane.
Dane, are you listening?
So, but you know, that's not uncommon, especially for men, because men are oftentimes motivated by a fear of weakness or a fear of being wrong. And the irony is, and this is the power of understanding this, the irony is that when we're afraid of those things, oftentimes, and we see this a lot in our culture, that because of men's fear of being wrong or ignorant, we throw up so many walls that we inhibit our ability to be able to learn, and therefore we end up in the long run actually being wrong and being weak. And so that's the irony of fear, is that it actually, as we respond to it, it actually creates exactly what we don't want in the long run.
And it's such a cycle, like people get into these habits, and it continues to hurt their communication.
Absolutely.
What are specific tips you could give to people day to day? You know, say it's we'll do a spouse relationship.
Okay.
What, you know, from waking up into the morning to responding to when they come home from work, what are some things mentally that they can put into play that will help with communication?
So, like I said before, communication breaks down at a foundational level because trust either in that moment or even big picture wise, it doesn't exist. And so the best thing to start this ball rolling is to heal that part of the relationship, to start to generate that trust. And there's two things that I would suggest people do to create trust in a relationship. First thing is to just be more accountable about our stuff.
own up
Yeah.
to your actions and behaviors.
Right, and own what we're doing in a relationship. Oftentimes, especially with communication, why that trust is violated is because we actually place the emotional responsibility of how we feel on other people.
Like, it's your fault I feel this way.
Yeah, how often
it's your fault I woke up unhappy because last night, you know, you got in an argument with me.
Absolutely, and when we do that, we're not actually, there's a huge self-deception there. We're not being accountable about the thoughts and the feelings that we have because of that, you know, said event. In reality, the emotions and the pain and the drama that we create in our life is actually just a representation of fears and insecurities that we already had, whether that person was there or not, right?
So really, it sounds like some of these communication issues are derived from people not taking accountability for, and like we said, displacing the cause of their feelings,
right.
Really.
Pointing the finger and blaming. And when we enter into the space of blame, we actually lose power. I mean, think about it. The idea of being a victim is really powerless, right? And
that
so
really is.
We really give up our ability to change and control our circumstances because we give it away to other people and therefore blame it on other people.
Okay, so Keith, we have accountability.
So accountability.
So what else?
The second thing is just to be more authentic and vulnerable. And again, this is really scary for men because there's a chance for men and for women too to be heard in those situations. And so there's some work we have to do to understand and shift that paradigm and understand what pain really is and how we create that in our lives, as well as in reality the real risk isn't being heard. The real risk is not connecting, because that lack of connection is what destroys our relationships. And again, like I said, fear creates exactly what we're afraid of. And so by not risking, we don't connect, and by not connecting, we ruin our relationships.
So it's like kind of a vicious cycle that
Absolutely.
people keep going, and if they don't realize what they're doing, there's no way to fix it, of course.
Absolutely.
Or they try and fix it in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
Like you said, they don't think, oh, what am I doing?
Right.
Or I need to be this way.
And we try to change other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good tips there.
Yeah.
So you have an event coming up on February 17th.
I do,
Tell us
February
about that.
17th.
And it's free. This should be pretty
Yeah, this
cool.
is a free event. Would love everybody to come if you can. There's two, it's February 17th, and I have two events that day. They're just little half-day events, so they're like 4 hours long. So worth your time, especially if you're interested in shifting the dynamic in your family.
And is this for, like, bring your spouse or families?
This
or
is your whole family.
Whole family.
So I put an age limit of about 13 on it, and then on up. So bring your kids. It's so awesome to walk. We'll walk through some really powerful processes and help us understand some of those dynamics we just talked about.
Okay.
And help to shift that paradigm within the family, and you'll walk away with some really powerful tools.
Great.
To be able to understand that in the family.
Excellent. And Keith was awesome enough to, he's going to give people a free gift if you text your name and your email to this number, and I think we have that up on screen. Tell us what that number is, and people can get a really cool gift. Yeah,
so these principles that I just talked about with trust and accountability and vulnerability, stuff like that, this is part of some content that I've developed called 4 Principles of Meaningful Relationships, and it's in a 4-audio series program, and I'd love to just give it away for free. It retails for about $150, and if you text your name and email to that, I'd love to get it.
Very cool. So you can get exactly what Keith is talking about and get some excellent information on communication, and also attend that event on February 17th. Thank you so much for being here this morning and talking to us about authenticity and accountability and such important concepts for everyone to apply, I think. So thanks so much for being with us this morning. It was great to have you on the show. Thank you.